only trying to monitor the groundwater levels, which we do very effectively, which is actually the easy part of it, but the other part of it is trying to find the fix and the solutions. The wall network will give us a picture of what's going on in the ground. It'll tell us where the groundwater is below the ground surface. So in some areas it may be 10 feet below the ground surface, in other areas it may be 12 feet below the ground surface. We use that information and correlate that to the elevation of the wood piles under the buildings to determine whether or not a certain area may be at risk. You're in an urban environment, there's not a lot of green space for when it does rain for water to penetrate the aquifer, ultimately to replenish the groundwater table. So when it rains, the water just runs off and goes into catch basins and goes into sewers.
Whether it be runoff or the rain precipitation itself. And so that would oftentimes replenish the groundwater levels and at least keep them pretty level. If you can imagine all of Boston, it's not a bathtub. I mean, water will go where it wants to go, and if it doesn't want to stay in the ground, it'll find a place to go.
Well, if groundwater levels are depleted, the first thing that we look at is the existing infrastructure under the street. So we'll look at sewers, we'll look at tunnels, we'll look at a building that has a potential deep basement, and we'll work with the entities who own that infrastructure to say, hey, groundwater levels in this area are low, take a look at your infrastructure, it may be compromised. We've been working to develop porous infrastructure. So sidewalks now, having an area where it's porous, where the rainwater can essentially percolate into the ground. Unlike conventional asphalt or concrete, this type of pavement has voids that basically allows the water to enter. And the other thing is the city's Article 32 Conservation Overlay District. So there's two components to that. The first component is to recharge groundwater. So anybody that comes in and wants to substantially gut rehab their building, they're now required to put in a recharge system, which is basically just taking your roof leaders and instead of having them run off into the street or into the storm system, redirecting them back into what's called a recharge structure. It's essentially a dry well. So taking that rain that's falling on the roof and putting it back into the ground. That's how we replenish the aquifer. That's how we're basically returning the area to its natural state. And then the second component of that zoning is the no harm component. So if somebody comes in to a site and says, we want to put up a building, and we propose to put up a building here with 3 levels of underground parking. Well, those 3 levels of underground parking, that basically needs to be engineered to be watertight. There are no pumps and there are no under drains that are designed as part of that new structure. It's watertight, it's sealed watertight. And that's really the genesis of the zoning, was the no harm component, which was really to ensure that nobody doing anything below grade is going to adversely affect the groundwater table. It's been estimated that probably 40 to 50% of the city's residential task base is on piling supported structures. That's what's at risk. Ultimately, that's what the Groundwater Trust was established to protect.